Lost Generation, I'm going to come at you with another public service announcement. As you know, my past includes a very lurid history of drug use and abuse and involvement in a hectic lifestyle. Me self-medicating and seeking, I guess what you could call adventure, and living a life of chaos. And the reason of this video is basically to put it out there that your future is grim if you choose that road. And what do I mean by that? We can tie this into another video I'm going to do about the wages of sin being death and what that whole concept means. And so even if you do somehow manage to be a part-time casual user and it doesn't take control of you, all that's going to bring in your life is regress, negative people, negative emotions, negative outcomes. But for a good percentage of you, what that type of lifestyle is going to bring is ruin. And there are going to be a good number of you that wind up addicted, regardless of what you think about your own strength, your own willpower, regardless of whether you think that what you've been told is all lies or not. I know me personally, there was a lot of programs to reach out and warn you about the dangers of it. But I had smoked a little weed and I said, you know what, this is no big deal. I can control this, and the people around me were doing all of it, and so eventually I just kind of fell into doing it. There was actually a point in my childhood where my parents and some of my teachers were the only people in my life I knew that weren't using drugs. So to me, it appeared quite normal. And I actually started believing that it was all normal and controllable. And what really bothers me when I see people's ferocious opinions on the internet about drug addicts and them deserving nasty fates and all that is there is a drug for everyone that will get you addicted. So you could have all the willpower in the world when it comes to alcohol or cocaine, but there is some other type of drug out there that will make your willpower crumble. Different drugs speak to different people, different personalities, different types of pain. Because that is one thing that I know for a fact about almost everyone, is that they use for a reason. Deep underneath, there is a reason that most people are of the mindset to use the substances to begin with. And it's usually pain from the past or the inability to deal with the present and with the future. And that is the biggest cause. What people will generalize as boredom is really a lack of purpose. And a lack of purpose breeds dwelling on pain. And the pain takes over their present. And a painful present for an addict more than dictates their future. Anyways, I'm getting a little off track here. What is it that I seek to announce to you and warn you of? If you are one of the unlucky souls that plays around with these substances and you come across the one that really speaks to you, you're going to do it, and the first time you do it, you're going to say, I felt amazing, I wish I could feel like this every day. And then you're going to do it again and tell yourself that you're going to stop, that way you don't get addicted. And eventually, you're going to get so far in, you no longer have a choice whether you're addicted or not. And usually, you're going to get well past that point because of the lifestyle around you pushing you that way. And peer pressure isn't really a big joke like everyone makes it out to be. It's not always going to be a friend in your ear saying, come on man, do this, you know, all the cool people are doing it like they teach you in school. But if everyone you know, everyone you're friends with, everyone you hang out with is doing it, it makes it seem normal, and you will justify doing it. So you're going to find that substance, that one substance that's going to break your will, and then it's all going to be over. And let me tell you what comes after that. What comes after that is a long, painful, dark, and desperate road. You know, years of lost time. And during that, every day could be a game of Russian roulette. So what's your future look like? I've seen people, they take every risk in the world just to obtain it. And then they run out of money, and then they start committing crimes. And that could be you. Regardless of how moral you are right now, when being well and being able to function is at stake, you might justify a petty theft. And it doesn't seem like that now, but addiction is called a disease because it actually changes the way your brain works. And I know you probably don't believe that, but when you're deep in an addiction, your conscience and your way of thinking does in fact change. I've experienced it. I don't think at all now or before like I did during that time period. And you'll do things that will, you know, affect your conscience, and then you have to do more drugs just to suppress that. I've seen that as well. And I've seen plenty of beautiful, young, innocent girls that get into these drugs, get addicted, and get chewed up and spit out by the streets, by pimps, by dealers, by boyfriends. You want to talk about how sick this world is? I've seen people who use with their boyfriends, and then their boyfriends justify turning them out and making them turn tricks. And, you know, can you imagine yourself being a man and you take your wife or the mother of your kids or your girlfriend and you encourage her to sell her ass? I've seen all of these things. I've seen people rip off their own family, emotionally extort their own family, preying on the love that their family has towards them to steal, extort, blackmail, you name it. I've seen people embark on crazy crimes they would never commit, bank robberies, convenience store robberies, pharmacy robberies, because they justified it due to their addiction. Their addiction called for that money. And like I said, you're not thinking in a normal state of mind. I've seen some of the worst things. I've seen mothers stealing their own kids' Christmas gifts under the tree, pawning it for money for crack. I've seen fathers trading their vehicles to crack dealers to be used to serve fiends, travel around, pick up re-ups, make drug deals, even though that was their last mode of transportation to get their kids around. The amount of desperation, pain, and darkness is absolutely sickening. You will be rationalizing dealing with people you never deal with before. Criminals, murderers, convicts, illegal immigrants that have fled other countries for previous crimes. You'll be dealing with pimps. You'll be dealing with drug dealers. You'll be dealing with prostitutes. You'll be dealing with ghettos. You'll be dealing with meth heads. You'll be dealing with meth cooks. It all depends on the drug you're using and the area you're in, but it's going to be the absolute dregs of society, that I can assure you. One of my friends for a long time was someone that had done quite a bit of time for attempted murder. Another one of my friends was someone that stabbed somebody in a foreign country and immigrated illegally into the U.S. And, you know, I would probably never be friends with these people today, but at that time, these were the people I was, you know, hanging out with. And that's not even to tell tale of the various hustlers, pimps, drug dealers, who I'm not going to speak on their individual business, but those are the types of people that you will be around by necessity once you get far enough in. and the harmlessness of your suburban party lifestyle will give way to hard neighborhoods, the ghetto, crime, violence, getting arrested. Almost no one makes it out of a serious addiction without serious charges at some point. And it doesn't take what you think it takes. Simple conspiracy would be enough to give you a couple of years. All they need to have on you is a recorded conversation, a wiretapped phone of you agreeing to commit a crime. I actually know someone that was arrested for a couple of years for conspiracy just for accepting free samples of a drug. A drug dealer had stopped by, dropped them off for her to test the quality for them. And unfortunately for her, that drug dealer's phone was tapped in a widespread operation. And they rolled her up as part of a criminal conspiracy, saying that she was the purity tester of the organization, even though there was no such agreement. You can't trust anyone. Are you going to enjoy a life where you can't place trust or love in anyone? If you're using drugs and you're partying or you're an addict, most likely if you have a girlfriend or boyfriend, they're going to be doing the same. And guess what? You're not going to be able to trust them, and they're not going to be able to trust you. You're not going to be able to love them because of what you see in them, and they're not going to love you because of what they see in you. It's going to be a partnership of drug abuse. The whole Bonnie and Clyde drug affair, which I've seen time and time again. I even participated in one that was particularly destructive. You're not going to be able to trust anyone around you. Your so-called friends, you might see them every day, but you can't trust them. They'll rip you off. They'll snitch on you. Anything to be free so they can keep feeding their addiction. And you're going to see people ripping each other off. You're going to see people toying around with the drugs, adding cuts because they don't care about the health of the people using it. You know, they'll use a lot of stuff to cut cocaine with, thinking people are going to sniff it, and then people are shooting it up. They don't care what the cut is. They don't care if it's safe. And you're going to get desensitized to it all. You're going to get desensitized to walking into a crack house and seeing a woman go round robin across the room, servicing every man in there for a small piece of rock. You know, you're going to get desensitized to a pregnant woman blasting a meth or a crack pipe. You're going to get desensitized to seeing a 12-year-old kid doing ketamine falling down a flight of stairs. You're going to get desensitized to seeing homeless people get beat up, robbed, raped, just because they're vulnerable. And a lot of times they'll be beat up, robbed, raped, and, you know, the perpetrator might rob them of everything they have, which might be, you know, $10 to $100 at most, just because that can get them a few more hits. And you're going to live a lifestyle where you have to look over your shoulder every single minute of every day, from the day you wake, the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep. You're going to be looking over your shoulder. You're going to live a life where all your friends that are doing good things aren't going to want to be around you. You're going to live a life where you're going to become a pariah amongst most of society. And no one's going to want you around. No one's going to associate with you. I mean, in the drug world, you can't even accept a ride from someone or give someone a ride without being in fear. You know how many people I know who have chosen to give someone a ride and they get pulled over and that someone ditches drugs under the seat and doesn't confess to their ownership of the drugs? You, as the person giving the ride, are going to catch a charge along with them. Let that sink in for a minute. Just because you're in the drug culture and you're hanging out with the wrong people and you give someone a ride, you can do years. Years. I mean, it's not a picnic. It's not fun. And adventure gives way to despair. and fun gives way to necessity. You'll no longer have the choices that you think you had to just stop and just change everything. And if you're in it long enough, you could become one of the people I've seen where they get to be 40 years old or older, and they've been an addict their whole life, and they just say, you know what, it's too late for me to start over, I'm just going to kill myself with this stuff. I've seen that as well. You know, get used to seeing crack houses, dope houses, shooting galleries just full of addicts, and you walk in and every single one of them wants a square, every single one of them wants a car ride, every single one of them wants a few bucks. You know, I've seen some of the dirtiest and saddest things. I've seen addicts sharing needles. I've seen addicts begging for what they call rinses, which is where the spoon and the cotton that you prepared your injection out of is collected and rinsed into one shot for some desperate and dirty addict. I've seen people saving the cotton filters they filter their dope through to try to reuse them, and they end up getting cotton fever or shooting who knows what kind of bacteria into their body. I've seen people covered in abscesses, collapsed veins, track marks. You know, absolutely self-destructive behavior. Get used to seeing that, because that's going to become normal once you're an addict. It's going to become normal. I want you to think about that. Is that what you want your life to be like? And then once you're in it, the only, you know, there's rehabs, there's programs, there's meetings, but none of that's going to really take root and change anything until you're ready to change. And a lot of times, you being ready to change isn't going to happen until you hit a bottom. And for a lot of people, bottom is death, extended prison sentences, illness. You know, it's absolutely sad. I've seen people get 13 years, get out, within a year they got another 13. Just over and over and over again, in and out, in and out, in and out. They can't even last a few months on the street because they can't control their addictions. Seen people go into prison, continue using in prison, get in debt, and who knows what happens to them, but they're never the same when they get out. So you can take your wild guess to what happens to those types of people. You get mixed up with the wrong people in jail, make the wrong mistakes. They'll never be the same again. You know, at one point there was a guy that overdosed right on the side of the road. He was shooting up behind the corner of a building and collapsed right there. And people knew about him. People were walking, stepping over the body for multiple days. No one wanted to be a snitch, so no one called it in. That could be you. That could be you dead on the side of the street from an overdose. People stepping over your body like you're a pile of dog shit. And get used to that, because a lot of society will convince themselves that you're a piece of dog shit. If you go online, you look at the way people talk about addicts, and I don't agree with it, but that's how it is. Because any one of those people could be addicts if they tried the right substance. And the fact that they haven't isn't proof to them having extreme willpower. They need to make addicts feel like pieces of garbage to feel better about themselves. And they're easy and vulnerable targets. So get used to being an easy and vulnerable target, because you're going to be the first one to get swept up by the police. You're going to be the first one to get mugged going to cap your drugs. I hope this all just sinks in a little bit. And I hope that, especially if you're young, you reconsider the path on which you walk. Lost generation. We're out.